we try and do business pretty ethically, and we're transparent about the way we do business. We go to the seller and say, hey, look, you can probably go list this on the market for X, but we know it needs X amount of repairs.
Yep.
Do you want to do that? If you don't, I can buy it for this price, and this is how I make money. I'm going to either take it down and I'm going to flip it myself, or I'm going to go sell it to a buddy that flips a bunch of homes a year, and I'm going to make a small profit for my services, right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Break It Down with Braydon. Super excited. I've got Tino Luna on here today.
What up? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me today, Tino.
Yes, of course.
Tino's got his amazing wife, Amber, 2 kids, Liam and Austin.
Yes, sir.
And cranking it out in the wholesale world.
Yes.
So tell everybody kind of what you do out there and kind of what that entails.
Yeah, so my name's Tino Luna. I've been doing real estate for just about 4 years. August will be 4 years. And started out as a wholesaler. So I learned to, hunt for those off-market deals, direct to seller. Learned a lot of sales in that process and psychology and stuff like that. And then I worked for a couple people from 2018 through 2020. Okay. 2021, I went on my own. Okay. Last year, continued the wholesale model, but then added fix and flip into it as well. So we did about 23 properties, or we'll finish up 23 this year. Yep. And so flipped 23 properties last year, did a bunch of wholesaling, and so really trying to hit investing in all angles. Ended up buying 2 buy and holds, one in Georgia, which was on Creative Finance, and then one in Moon Valley that we will refinance into. And so, just hitting it from all angles.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're doing the wholesale side of things, you're doing the flip side of things. For those that aren't really aware, tell everyone kind of what the wholesaling model really entails.
Yeah. So what wholesaling is we go direct to seller. So you can do it through multiple forms of marketing. So a lot of people start out door knocking, and you just go to areas that might be rougher, right? Mm-hmm. Where you've got overgrown weeds and stuff like that. And you literally knock on the door and say, hey, are you guys interested in selling? Yep. That's one form. Second,
any signs of distressed property kind of is what
pretty much. Yep. Exactly. Second is pulling data. The same thing, but we're looking for distress. So code violations, pre-foreclosure, probate, that kind of stuff. Yep. And then you cold call them. Or what the big dogs do is SEO and SEM. So you go to Google and I need to sell my house. That form comes in and then you call them. Yep. And so what we essentially do is we go put them under a purchase contract, and we may put it a little deeper than what a flipper would buy it at. Mm-hmm. And then we take that piece of paper and we go to a flipper and say, hey, I have a house for contract at $250. Would you buy it at $260? Yep. And then they come in and close on the back end. So super simple.
Yeah. And we kind of talked earlier, there's kind of a misnomer out there between real estate agents and wholesalers. Yes. Talk a little bit about kind of what you see on that side. And
yeah. So wholesaling is almost like a gray area. And I will say this, it does get a bad rap because there's a lot of people doing it incorrectly. And what I mean by incorrectly is they go put it under contract at way too high of a value, and then they go try and shop it to someone like me who does a flip. And I say, dude, I'm not going to buy that at that price. I would make no money. I would lose money. And then they go back and they cancel. And so there's a lot of that happening. And the sellers they're left out with nothing, And a lot of the times they will get that purchase contract and they're like, okay, sweet, we're moving. And they start packing up and everything gets ready. And then the wholesaler backs out. And so the misconception is like, one, some of these wholesalers are doing bad business, and I think there's a lot of regulations coming from the real estate world on wholesalers, maybe potentially even being licensed. Okay. And 2, that we're equity stealers. And so don't get me wrong, there are some people that go out there and they term themselves sharks, right? So they go out and they try and get it as deep as possible. Yep. We try and do business pretty ethically, and we're transparent about the way we do business. We go to the seller and say, hey, look, you can probably go list this on the market for X, but we know it needs X amount of repairs. Yep. Do you want to do that? If you don't, I can buy it for this price, and this is how I make money. I'm
Yep.
going to either take it down and I'm going to flip it myself, or I'm going to go sell it to a buddy that flips a bunch of homes a year, and I'm going to make a small profit for my services,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I think if you just approach it from the right way, it's a great business model for somebody that doesn't have a lot of money. Like, to get into flipping, you need hard money. You need to be liquid of some kind, whether you get private money or however you source your money. But, there's money that's involved in flipping. And so no money, you have hustle. Wholesale is a great way to go.
Yeah. Well, and I think like you mentioned, it's not for everybody, but it's an option
Right.
for people that necessarily don't have the funds for all the repairs and stuff to get it actually listed.
Right.
I mean, you talked about it. There's some distressed properties that are beyond distressed, where it's like, kind of elaborate on something like that.
Yeah.
So,
So this week we're hoping to close on a property that's a probate property. It's been sitting vacant for a year and a half. We knocked on the door. Nobody was there. We got a hold of the neighbor. And the neighbor's like, dude, we would love for somebody to buy this house. There's rats coming out of it.
Yep.
They're coming over to our property. And so that kind of stuff, a realtor's probably not going to be able to list and have an end buyer come in and buy that property. And so an investor does have to take that down,
Yep.
and whether it's us or a flipper. So, yeah.
yeah. I know you mentioned that you had a deal outside of Arizona. What's kind of your deal flow in state, out of state? What does that kind of look like?
So our primary market's Arizona. So we have 6 flips here, and we do wholesaling here. We have 1 flip in California, and we do wholesaling in California. And then Texas, we had 1 flip that just sold.
Okay.
And so there we create partnerships. But our main markets are Arizona, Texas, California, and then we do a little bit in Florida as well.
And then how do you decide if you're going to do the flip, or you're just going to flip it and wholesale it?
Flip the paper.
Yeah.
It's opportunity cost. So like if I can go make 20, 30 grand clean wholesaling it,
Yep.
then I will probably do that. But
Yep.
if I see there's not a ton of spread and I can probably put 30 grand into it and then net 40 grand, then maybe it's opportunity cost more. So like if it's a quick project and we can go get some good returns, we'll flip it. But if it's something that I have to be stuck in for 6 months, I would rather just wholesale that out.
Talk about your team.
Yeah, so it's me and my partner, Nick. We actually started wholesaling together in 2018. We were door knocking together.
Yep.
We've worked for the same people. It's crazy. And so it's me and him. And then we have 6 VAs in Mexico that cold call those lists. And then we have a couple door knockers here and then 1 American acquisition guy. And so, and then we have our contractor and his team. And so all together, we're a pretty small group of like 10.
Yep. You have 1 contractor that's handling all of your different flips for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's our main contractor and he subcontracts out a lot of the stuff. And so, but we trust him. He's been doing it for a long time. And he's a cool guy. He's a Mexican guy. Sometimes I'll show up and we'll drink some beers after a Friday, you know. So he's super cool. I trust him a lot.
Love it.
And that's the biggest thing.
What's kind of the goal? Where do you want this to take off to?
Man, so the goal is there's a few different goals. Right now we're working on a project that is potentially going to be a nationwide brand. So you've heard of Homevestors.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to that.
Okay.
We're working on that project to go nationwide and potentially sell franchises and all that stuff.
Yep.
But my primary goal is I love spending time with my family. So I got into this for the purpose of controlling my time.
Yep.
And so we want to wholesale, we want to flip, but we want to redeploy that capital into buying and holding properties.
Okay.
And then either Airbnb or renting them out traditionally.
Yep.
And the goal is to build a big enough portfolio where the passive income pays for my lifestyle.
Yep.
And the active income will always be there, but that's more like fun income.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's the goal.
Cool. Talk about like the sales systems that you guys have in place that kind of help automate a lot of what you guys are doing.
So the goal is always to automate your business and scale out of it.
Love it.
And so for us, right now we're still somewhat in the trenches. Like I take a lot of the high level calls, the harder to close calls still. Mm-hmm. But right now we have the VAs. And so we have our what we call level 1 and 3 VAs. They essentially just call, they dial, and they say, hey, do you want to sell your house?
Yep.
That then gets put into a CRM, which is we use Podio. And our level 3 and 5 VAs, we have 2 of them. One of them is Ivan. Our main guy is Ivan.
Okay.
he calls and he tries to convert. When he cannot convert, he pings me or Nick. And we go in and we either convert or figure out, okay, what kind of deal is this? Because we, not only do we do wholesale and flipping, we do creative finance. So subject to seller finance, we buy on wraps, we sell on wraps.
Okay.
So there's a whole different world, and it allows us to convert on a different level than what our VAs will convert.
That's a huge topic right now. Let's talk about creative financing. So talk about what is subject to. Like, no one has a clue what that even is right now.
So subject to is essentially where it's usually in a low equity type situation where if they were to sell it on the market, they would probably owe some money at closing. And so we come in and we say, hey, we will take over the payments. We don't, the loan stays in place in their name.
Yep.
But title transfers to our name, and we continue to make those payments through a third-party servicing company.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows them to walk away from that situation without having to pay. And then we also give them money on top of it. So let's just say they owed $220, the houses were $240. We come in, we write a check for $20,000, which typically they wouldn't, after closing costs, commissions, all that stuff.
They wouldn't even have that.
They wouldn't have that.
Yep.
So we write a check for $20,000. They walk away with the $20,000. We take over the payments to the mortgage, and they walk away clean and clear. There's a few different ways that helps, obviously. One, some banks or some institutions will allow us to do what's called a debt-to-income release form.
Okay.
So it shows that we are actively making those payments, and so some of that DTI gets wiped off of their credit.
Got it.
So it allows them to go actually get another mortgage.
Yeah, requalify.
And so that doesn't happen all the time, though. That's a perfect situation.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a subject too. We take over the note.
Yep.
And we take title, and we essentially rent that out or Airbnb it out.
Love it. What are some creative financing you guys are doing?
Yeah. So seller finance is probably subject to, I would say, it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, it just seems to be the buzzword right now.
It is.
Right?
It's a huge buzzword,
Yes.
and there's a lot of people teaching it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people doing it right, but there's a lot of people doing it shady too, because you can, if you don't make those payments, that affects their credit. And so some people will take those down and they'll assign them because they are assignable.
Got it.
But they don't vet that end buyer.
Got it.
So that's also giving the subject to world a bad name. But yeah, our preferred method is seller finance. So somebody that has no debt on the home, it's usually somebody that has a large portfolio of rental property, and they're like, hey, I want to avoid paying so much on taxes.
Yep.
So we structure something where we give them a down payment, and it's less intensive on taxes, and then we pay them monthly, and we create a note, essentially. And so they pay less in taxes because they're just paying on that monthly payment.
Yep.
So that's probably our preferred method.
Yeah. It seems like in the wholesale world, investor world, there's a lot of like meetup groups and exchanging of other kind of properties with other wholesalers and stuff.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So the wholesaling community, especially in Arizona, is a super tight-knit community.
Yep.
Some of the guys that have been doing it for a long time, they've been doing meetups and they have coaching programs. And so I would say the last 2 years, there's been a huge spike in like everybody has a meetup.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so, but it's great for networking because, man, there's so many ways to make money in real estate, especially in the wholesale world, because you have people like me who's direct to seller.
Yep.
And I've built a buyer's list through just being around and selling properties and buying lists and vetting the buyers. But there are some people that are really good at the sales portion, but they can't sell the deals. So then you've got people that are disposition-only companies, and they say, hey, look, I have a list of a ton of buyers.
Yep.
You're really good at getting properties. Why don't you send me those properties and I'll sell them for you? So that's another thing, and that's huge in those meetups because it's like you've got a bunch of young hustlers that are getting contracts, but they can't sell them. Then you've got a lot of people that are just trying to connect, and everybody kind of makes money off of the same transaction.
Right.
But the meetups they're awesome. Some of them can be a pitch fest.
Yep.
And we try and stay away from those as much as possible. But there's a few that are really genuine. Templeton Walker.
Yep.
He's a great guy. He's one of my he's not like a mentor. Like we haven't officially established that, but I look up to him so much, and I love his business model. I love the way he lives his life, and so he's somebody that I try and aspire to be.
Yep. Very much a family man himself.
Yes. Yeah. So Templeton has a great meetup. Ray Spencer has a great meetup. Ramon, I don't know if you know Ramon. He has a great meetup, and it's not like a pitch fest. It's just genuine people sharing what has worked for them, and hey, this is what's working for me, and hopefully you guys can go repeat that process. And so, yeah. But there's a new meetup. I feel like every week.
Yep.
So.
If you guys aren't following this guy on social media yet, you should be. His videos are hilarious and they're actually informative too.
Thank you.
How has your social media helped with the business?
Man, so social media, like...
And are you only on Instagram? I follow you on Instagram. Are you on? Is your stuff on TikTok?
No, I'm working on TikTok.
You should put that on TikTok because their shit is hilarious.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm only on Instagram right now. I'm trying to build the TikTok following, but Instagram has helped tremendously. I actually started recording the process when, I'm sure you follow Gary Vee.
Yep.
He's like, dude, record everything.
Yep.
And so ever since I started, I've been recording everything. Like even when I didn't know anything, I was just like, hey, I'm out door knocking, and I didn't know shit about the business, you know? And so, but it's helped, build somewhat of a brand. Like, oh, Tino does know what he's talking about. And then on top of that, when I started flipping in 2021, I would just walk around in my flips and I would show them like, okay, we're on demo day here and this, and that. And so it helped build a reputation of like, oh shit, Tino does have flips.
Yep.
Let's send him his deals, because the flip side of that is that disposition model, which we call in the business daisy chaining. So you take someone's deal, then you resell it, and then you make the middle. So there's a lot of people out there saying, send me your deals.
Yep.
But they're not actual buyers. They're
flipping the paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So recording the process has helped just really get people to send me deals and keeps me relevant. And it's fun.
Yeah. How often are you putting them out? Do you have a schedule or?
I don't have a schedule. Okay. So
because it seems like you're pretty consistent with it. And
I just try and be as consistent as possible. And then recently, like, I have started recording everything.
Yep.
Like everything that I do every day, like whether it's phone calls or we're going and knocking a door, like I just record it.
Yep.
And then I have so much stuff saved that I'm like, all right, well, I guess we could put this out today,
Yep.
So, and that's what the people want to see. Like I want my brand to be authentic. Like I won't ever name any names, but like there's people out there that like they post content, but they're not really in the trenches. You know what I mean? Right. And so I don't ever want to be the guy saying like, you should do this and you should do this. Like I want people to be like, dude, Tino actually does that.
Right.
And so I record everything, whether it's a bad call, a good call. And there are some times where I put out a call that's like, Tino was stuttering a little bit, but
still made the call.
It's raw,
right.
And I may get a deal out of it.
Yep.
So that's the biggest thing, is like teaching people to take action and just move forward.
Yeah. No, I commend you for what you're doing online.
Thank you.
It's fun to watch.
Thank
and
you.
It's insightful, honestly. And like I love that you're doing live stuff. That's one thing that I need to be better at, and Jesus keeps pushing me to do more stuff like that. But I hate myself when I hear myself live or whatever. And sometimes, like even in here, I stumble and mutter from time to time or whatever. But I don't know, for some reason the live scares me. And you're doing it all the time, and it's awesome because you see who you really are and the actual conversations that you're having with potential clients, and it's real.
Thank you. Yeah. It's scary sometimes. Like I'll go live, and I've only been in the business for 4 years, so I don't know everything, but I feel like I'm pretty versed in a lot of things. Like I'm really good at sales and wholesaling.
Yep.
I'm pretty good at flipping, and I would say I'm pretty moderate at creative finance. So we'll go live, and sometimes people will throw me a curveball, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to say, But over time, like you get over that, you know what I mean? Like you just learn to be real and raw, and you'll sweat a little bit and get a little nervous, but it's part of the game.
Well, who cares at the end of the day?
Yeah.
It's like I think about this all the time whenever I come on here. It's like, okay, are people going to be critical? Are they going to make fun of me? Are they going to hear the ums? And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're putting yourself out there. You're providing value. And sure, our friends will make fun of us for all the stupid things that we say or whatever. But at the end of the day, who cares? Yeah. It's like what Gary Vee always talks about, is getting over people, caring about what people care about.
Yeah.
Or getting over what people think of you.
That is hard sometimes, because like when I first started doing it in 2018, or like just recording myself walking and knocking doors, people were like, who is this guy?
Oh, yeah.
Like, We went to high school with you. We've seen what you do on weekends.
Right.
Like, who is this new Tino preaching like self-development and all this stuff? And after you do it consistently, the people that doubted you in the beginning, like a lot of them, not that I've made it or whatever, but now they're coming back and saying, dude, how did you do it? Can you teach me? Can you show me? And so it all comes full circle.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it.
So,
well, if you guys have any questions on wholesaling or any real estate related questions, give Tino a call. How can they reach out to you?
So my Instagram is just Tino Luna. Actually, all of my platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok is just Tino Luna. Add me on there, shoot me a DM, and I'd love to connect with you guys. And especially realtors, guys, like we are true cash buyers. So if you send us your deal, if it's something that needs work and it's not ready to be listed or they just want a quick cash sale, send it over. We'll give you an offer. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least you have something in your pocket. And, hopefully you get the most money for your client.
That's a great point. Tino is not a realtor. So what's one thing is unique about Tino is as a real estate agent, he's a good person to be partnering with. So take advantage of that. Use him as a resource. Use him as an offer for your clients. Love it. Awesome. Well, stay tuned for another episode of Breaking Down with Braydon, guys. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
Boom.